Welcome to this Bitcoin price update for May. Please remember this is for entertainment purposes only. So it really is remarkable that exactly every 16 quarters we've had a new all-time high for Bitcoin going back to around 2013. And although it really would seem incredulous that the same is going to happen again, that does seem to be a belief of most people, of a lot of people who hold Bitcoin. So it does serve as a good kind of reference case for me to work against. Each of these cycle highs represent the bursting of a bubble caused by new money coming into Bitcoin, this most latest one being that of the ETFs. Of course, the last 4 weeks have been extremely positive for Bitcoin, which has performed rather quite well when you compared to the S&P 500. And so whereas a month ago things were looking at the breaking point, really, things are now looking actually fairly good. Looking at the previous cycles, and there was kind of a trend of the final quarter providing the massive rally and most of the gains. Back in 2020, we had a break from that, although that could have been caused by the effects of COVID and also the China mining ban. Maybe those things kind of ruined the normal trend, or maybe that's the kind of new normal. We're currently actually could be either. Looking at the manifestation of the current so-called cycle, we could be doing something like we did back in 2017. For the same token, we could have like a pathetic little nudge up, and then the bull market could just give up early, could then just give up, and it would look rather unimpressive as in 2020. We're kind of between those two at the moment, but the traditional Bitcoin bull cycle is still on. So I've got here the age of Bitcoin in circulation, and surprisingly, quite a large number of them are liquid or haven't been held longer than a cycle. Compared with when I looked at this last month, there's actually no change really, apart from the amount that MicroStrategy holds gone up from. So it's a big jump from 2 to 3%, a smaller jump in reality, but that's because of rounding. But overall, there's still no moves generally that are kind of big enough to make any dramatic effects. We did see though some hodlers who had held for a cycle did get shaken out. Where obviously we had this bit of a panic in late March, early April, and it seems that some of these hodlers that had held for more than a cycle did get shaken out by that, because the liquid BTC increased from 6.5 to 6.6 million. But otherwise, it's kind of stayed the same. But maybe we're starting to see beginnings of something that we can start to make sense of if the price continues to go up. Of course, the ETFs, as you can see, were buying the last month. And here we see the correlation between the price of Bitcoin at the top. And you can see how when Bitcoin's gone up, there's been lots of ETF buying. And that was the case last month. You can see that the ETF assets under management's gone up, but it's still not where it was at the beginning of the year, but it's been trending up the last month. And the same for the number of BTC they hold. So we can see here the ETFs holding BTC, the number of BTC held has gone up by 3%, and the number of companies has gone up by 6%. And within that, MicroStrategy increased their holdings by 9%. However, when measured to one decimal place, there isn't really a change. In terms of Bitcoin held on exchanges, it's kind of historically low, which I guess that's because people aren't even bothering with exchanges now anymore. They're just using ETFs. So yeah, it's kind of stayed low, but although it did kind of tick up a bit the last month. Now I get different numbers depending on whether I look at CoinMarketCap or CoinGlass. I seem to get different numbers. On CoinGlass, there's a much more dramatic fall. So obviously with this being Bitcoin, you can't really trust half the data you're getting in, reeling in, but I guess the general trend's the same, but I've got uncertainty with the numbers, so I've been going with the CoinMarketCap one. In terms of MicroStrategy, here's how they've raised money, mostly using capital raises actually, But in April, it was a real step up with about 14 billion of capital raised in order to buy Bitcoin. There's been no change in terms of countries holding Bitcoin. And in terms of public companies that own Bitcoin, as you can see, MicroStrategy increased their amount by 11% according to this data point, and Marathon Digital Holdings increased theirs by 20%. MicroStrategy have way more than everyone else. In fact, way more than everyone else combined. So really, it's dominated by MicroStrategies, and the overall number hasn't really increased much. Private companies is exactly the same as it was last month. So technically, I had drawn this moving average, which I explain in more detail in last month's video, but that did actually hold quite well or work as a good kind of force field for the price of Bitcoin. It is kind of looking quite good. So it's just a case really of seeing what happens as we've still got quite a long way to go, really, it seems, till the end of the year. And I've also actually drawn a megaphone, which I kind of noticed recently as a kind of formation that seems to be there. So hypothetically, if I owned Bitcoin, I'd kind of be waiting and seeing what happens. And I've got a rather sensible stop losses here based on the moving averages, bearing in mind that being a long-term investor, I would have bought mine quite a while ago. And so this would allow this kind of leeway in terms of using the moving average here as a stop loss. So I've just got some reality checks, KPI I've been doing, so that if the price does start to go up like a rocket ship, we've got some key criteria we can look at to make sure our feet are on the ground. The first is the cycle pattern, and we still look like we could be in either of these kind of cycle patterns. So that's why I've got a green light there. Are net ETF flows positive? Yes, they are. And so I've got a green light there, as corroborated through this data here. MicroStrategy is still able to raise money to buy Bitcoin. And then I've got several too good to be true meters here, where in terms of Bitcoin market cap as a proportion of M2 money supply or the S&P 500, or in terms of the assets under management by the ETFs as a proportion to the total ETFs assets under management, I don't think we're in too good to be true territory yet, according to this data. So that completes my update for the Bitcoin price. I hope you found it useful. Please remember it's for entertainment purposes only, and speak to you at the next video. I do videos like this one just for fun as a hobby. It's for entertainment purposes only. Always consult a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decision.